Welcome to Practical AI, everybody. I'm Jeff with Peter Lynn. Peter, Llama 3 came out. Meta's kind of made some breakthroughs. Tell us where they're at and what they've discovered or what they're doing.
So they released a new model last week that is getting some really good performance on the standard benchmarks, and it's comparable to Gemini Pro and Claude 3, but it's only at 70 billion parameters, which is pretty impressive.
And with you were telling me earlier that what Llama what they're doing is they build a big model, which is a lot smaller than the other ones, right? So 70 is a lot smaller relative to what ChatGPT is at, right? With their trillion whatever. But they also then are building a comparable 8 billion parameter model kind of side by side. Is that how's the performance on that one relative to the 70 billion?
So the 8 is better than the Gemini small and the Claude small and the Minstrel. So like all of them have different sizes of their models. So Llama also had a 8, a 70, and same with Llama 2, and Llama 3 has it. And they did tease that in a few months they'll have a Llama 3 400 billion parameter model that's supposed to be even better.
Okay, so a 70 billion parameter model uh, that's performing well is kind of a big deal, right? Is ChatGPT working on something similar, or are they just going bigger and bigger and bigger?
I mean, most likely they are, but they haven't said anything. Um, I think last year when someone interviewed Sam Altman, and he did mention, so someone asked him, is it just going to be bigger and bigger models? And his response, I think it's with Lex. He said, no, it'll be something other than just bigger and bigger models, which means that it'll be a mixture of models.
And that's what they're doing right now anyway, isn't it? They're just adding models on top of each other.
Right. So they've got like eight different, some people are guessing it's eight different models, and each one is like 180 to 300 billion, and then there's eight of them, so you multiply it and it's over a trillion parameters.
Okay. Well, either way, if OpenAI has a small, like, you know, Claude small and Gemini small and whatever, it's still going to be a lot bigger than Llama's 70 billion parameter. I mean, unless ChatGPT is going to go from a trillion down to 8 billion, that seems like a huge jump, doesn't it?
It does, but I think it's possible. I think by next year, my guess is by next year, Meta will probably release like a something between 8 and 70 billion. So I'm guessing maybe like around 40 or 50 billion. That'll be better than GPT 3.5 now,
Okay.
or better than the 70 billion now. So it's going to get smaller and better.
And how small do these have to get in order for us to run them on a mobile device?
So today you can run the 8 billion version quantized down to 4 bits on a mobile phone. It's kind of slow. Like you can see it type. So it's not ideal from a human perspective because it's going to be slow. But once it gets better, so let's say they manage to get it down to 40 billion next year and they quantize it down to 4 bits, and Qualcomm releases new Snapdragon CPUs and Apple releases the next version of their chip that's twice as fast. Then you get to the point where you could probably run a 40 billion parameter model and not have it totally suck.
Okay, so essentially by next year, two things will happen. One is the models will get a little smaller, but the hardware will get a little bit better as well. So those two things
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, I mean, Apple releases new hardware every year anyways.
Yeah.
So, and we know that they've they've been iterating on their neural processor for a decade now because they saw this coming. I mean, it's pretty clear because when they first released the A chip with the neural processor, people are like, why? And then immediately Qualcomm's like, oh, okay, we need to add it. And it took Qualcomm and Samsung 2 years to catch up, and they released Snapdragon with a neural processor. And so this and the new MacBook, all the M1s have multiple neural processors. Like the Max ones have 2 units. Um, the Airs have one, and if you get the Ultra, the Mac Studio Ultra, that's got 4 neural processors in it.
Okay.
So
That thing's
it's
ready
only
to
going
rock
to,
and roll.
yeah.
Okay, you said that if they got it down to 40 billion parameters, next year you could run it on a mobile device. Why wouldn't they just run the 8 billion? Like why wouldn't they use the small?
You could, but it depends on how good they get the 8 billion one. If they get the 8 billion equal to what 70 billion is today, then yeah, definitely run that one.
Okay, so that kind of gets back to my original question, and that is, how does the 8 billion stack up to the 70 billion for either Llama 2 or Llama 3? And how do they measure that?
Using the benchmarks, which is a good starting point. But that, so I mean, if you look at ChatGPT, 3 still had a lot of issues, right? And so the 8 billion, the current version of Llama 3, some reporting that it's gotten quite good, that it's almost comparable to ChatGPT.
3?
So today, yeah, so the 8 billion Llama 3 is getting pretty close. So I mean, we're almost there.
Okay. Great. Well, so it sounds like over the next year, there's just going to be a ton of um, model size reduction and hardware improvements that are going to converge on AI mobile, essentially,
Yeah, and that's probably why OpenAI wants to create their own phone.
which gets back to a prior discussion that you and I had.
Right, because ultimately they want their model small enough to fit on their own device that's built for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, good. Well, this will be fun to watch. Thanks, Peter. Be sure to like, subscribe, ask questions. We'll try to keep the topics relevant and answer any questions we can. Take care, everybody.